Okay. Yeah, okay, I can see some. Unfortunately, my phone just gives me, okay. Wow, everybody is all over the place. Nice. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Hi. Okay, so my name is Diane Batchelor. Um, you might see, I realize that my picture, the picture of my book is actually reversed, but my name is on that thing there. It's Batchelor with a T, and that T is very important because if it was missing, then I would be an unmarried man, because you know that bachelor is an unmarried man, but that T makes me a married woman as I am. So I am a Jamaican. I have lived here in Panama now for about 15 years, and I really love your country, and it has become home for me. As a matter of fact, I'm very soon going to become a citizen of Panama. So I'll be one of you. Um, I I know you want to know a little bit about me. I'll tell you some of the basic details. I am now 61 years old, and I know that is very old. I know it sounds very old. And as a matter of fact, um, if you turn those numbers around, that's how I feel. I feel like I'm 16, but I know that I'm 61. And I realize that it's a very quick dash from 16 to 61. And I also realized that when older people told me that, I thought, yeah, right. School just seems like it never ends and the days are just so long. But take my word for it, as soon as you start to get more busy in life, you realize the days just fly by, and before you know it, you're at my age. But I have enjoyed my life, living in Jamaica, then now living in Panama. I am a married woman. I have 3 grown children. My oldest is 24. My second is 22, and my daughter, I have 2 boys and a girl. My daughter is 20. So if you are somebody who is into math, you might realize that it took me quite a while before I did become a mom. I did get married pretty early. I got married at the age of 22, but my children didn't start coming until 14 and a half years after I was married. Um, a lot of the stories of my life I have told in a book, which is what you see on the cover. It's a book called, let's see, God in the Meantime. And I thought that today I would take, to give you, so you can answer some of the questions that you might be asking about me. I'll read you just a little snippet from my book, and then I'll give you a chance to ask me questions. So this is how my book starts. When you have stories to tell, God stories, where do you begin? In the beginning. Crawling on hands and knees as a young child, I climbed the seemingly vertical hill to the tiny house where I was born. I remember the sheets of newspaper and magazine pages that lined the walls. How did I come to be born in such a tiny, dark room in the hills of Jamaica, in a maroon town called a compound? Yes, that made me a maroon. I am the second of my mom's 5 children. My older brother, born in a hospital, came so easily that my mom thought this was to be the pattern for all her deliveries. Being a student teacher, young wife of a young student pastor in the hills of St. Elizabeth, she quickly agreed to the local midwife's offering of helping her deliver her second child, me. Well, let's just say she never did that again. I have the dubious honor of being the only one of her 5 offspring to be born at home. This leads me to another birth story. Many years later, almost 37 to be exact, but I run way ahead of myself. I did mention my dad was a pastor, yes? It also made me Jesus's cousin or some closely related next of kin. I joke, but barely. I grew up with a sense of innate goodness that made me feel the call to the altar to accept Jesus was for other folks, the sinners, not me. It was not until a summer camp as an almost 13-year-old that I finally became aware of my own need for a savior. That savior, Jesus, soon became my best friend with whom I shared the deepest secrets of my heart. So I began my tale with my young parents starting their family. Let's go back there. My dad used to boast that he was very happy to have started his family at a young age so he could grow up with his children. Being somewhat a daddy's girl, I cottoned on to that dream and made it my own. My parents married when my mom was 22. I admired my mom, so that also became my goal. As with everything dear to my heart, I shared this desire with my best friend. His word says, if my ways pleased him, he would grant me the desires of my heart. So I tried hard to please him and made sure he knew my heart's desires. Here they were. I would marry early, start a family, grow up with my children. Who settles for 1 out of 3? Not me. I did get married, and to a man God handpicked. Now that's a story. But what about the children of my youth? First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes... Again, I run ahead of myself. So that's the first chapter of my book. What did you learn about me from that? Or is there any question you'd like to ask based on what you heard?
Okay, kids. Based on what she just read, do you have any questions?
I have a question, but it's not related to the book.
Go ahead, Thomas.
Okay, sure, go ahead. That's why I'm here.
What do you like the most about Panama?
What do I like the most? You know what I like the most about Panama is that you're very family oriented. Children are very important in Panama, and the family unit is very important. I like that very much about Panama.
That's a good question, Thomas. Who else has a question? It can be about the book or about anything else. Remember, Diane is from Jamaica and she's living in Panama. This is the second Jamaican we've had on our show.
Who was the other Jamaican?
We had this lady who actually lives in Jamaica, and she's in charge of a national library or something like that. Odine, her name is Odine Phoenix.
Okay, lovely.
Yeah, so she was so excited sharing with them about mangoes and food.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead. Who has a question? Diego Lopez. And then Christian. Go ahead, Diego. Can't hear you, Diego.
No, I can't.
Okay, Diego dropped off. Christian, what was your question?
Okay, my question is, before publishing your book, what other ideas did you have to write?
You're mute, Diane. You're muted.
Oh, I don't know how come I'm muted. Yes, that's a very good question. The truth is, I really I liked writing just because I like to be creative, but I don't think that I ever thought of writing a book. I liked in school, I liked very much to write short stories. That was my favorite. I liked to imagine things. This book, though, I thought of writing mainly because I wanted my children to have an idea about some of the things that God had done in my life and to see some of the things that I thought they probably would know just because we lived together. But a lot of times when you're children, you miss what's happening with your parents. And so I wanted them to have an idea of what my life was like so that they can have it and they can also show their children.
Yeah, that's a great gift. Diego, are you back? I can hear you a little bit. Go ahead. Maybe you have to shout.
What was the hardest thing of leaving Jamaica?
Oh, wow. The hardest thing about leaving Jamaica was leaving my friends and family. And the other thing is, Jamaica is such a beautiful country. It's a small country. You know, I always laugh when I hear your anthem. The anthem is, well, it's not the anthem, but there's a section where something in your patriotic literature where it says, "Oh, pequeña patria." And I'm like, what do you mean, "Oh, pequeña patria"? You're about 5 times the size of Jamaica. But Jamaica is really a tiny little island, but it's so full, it's so rich with diversity, the mountains, the beaches, the rivers, the greenery. It's just a beautiful, beautiful country. And so I really, really missed I missed the mountains so much because Kingston, which is the capital city of Jamaica, has a lot of mountains. So a lot of the houses in Kingston are on the hills. So I miss being able to look at the lights of the hills or to go up on the hills and look down at the lights at night. I miss that. But Panama is beautiful. It took me a while to travel around and see the diversity of Panama and to see your beautiful country. And so it's my beautiful country now as well. I love it. It's beautiful.
That was a good question, Diego. Okay, who else has a question?
Teacher, I have a question.
Go ahead, Francisco.
I would like to know if you have like a favorite chapter of your book or something like that, a favorite part that you consider the most interesting, or you have a little favorites for that part of the book.
That's an excellent question. And actually, I had that marked as a part that I was going to read. I have many parts, but this one I thought you guys would like because we're the girls. None of the girls have spoken yet, but I know that. How old are you guys? You're about 12?
Between 12 and 15.
Between 12 and 15. Okay. So this is a perfect time when you begin to notice the boys and the boys begin to notice the girls and you begin to have little flutters in your tummy and you begin to like other people. And so that was an exciting part of my life. And I very much liked to be able to just like somebody today and then tomorrow decide, nah, I don't like that one. And I like another person, but I kept it to myself and it was just me liking who I liked and then discarding them in my mind. And that was, I love that about childhood. And so I hope you guys are enjoying your childhood. Don't go yet making alliances like becoming married in the way you behave so early. Have fun just looking at people and going, I like this about that one and that about that one and that about that one. And I like that. And before you know it, you have pretty much put together an idea of what you would like in a partner, in a person that will be your life partner. But for now, have fun looking and liking different things about different people. And so that was how I did. I did a lot of that. But then when I got to university, I began, by that time, I began to realize that if I told somebody that I liked them. We might have been great friends, but all of a sudden, you know, the minute you told them that you liked them, then the relationship changed. It began, you kind of felt funny around each other and you weren't free just to be friends as you normally were. And so I decided I didn't want to do that. I really just wanted to have a really good brother friend, not a boyfriend. And so eventually, that happened in my story. And eventually the brother boyfriend began to like me. And before we know it, the Lord began to point out that this was the person. And actually, and girls, please don't do this unless God tells you. But then I began to feel like I needed to go tell him that I believed that God had said. Oh my gosh. Now listen to me. Let me say it again. Don't you ever do that unless you are really, really sure, and meaning that you speak to people who are mature, who, you know, somebody like Miss Denora, somebody who will say to you, you know, based on everything you've said, I think this might really be true. Or no, don't do it. Make sure you have counsel, as I did. And eventually I believe that this was what. So this is my story. I was going to I felt the Lord told me to tell this person that I felt that he was the one, but I didn't want to do it. And so this was what I did. And this chapter is called Dreams and Schemes. Okay. So the next day we met in our usual spot in the university's chapel garden. But before I gave him the note, I decided to write it because I didn't want to say it. So before I gave him the note, I came up with my final, sure to succeed, marvelously brilliant plan. This was genius. Here's how it went. Selwyn, me. My husband, by the way, his name is Selwyn. So me. Selwyn, I've been thinking about our friendship. Selwyn, yes. Me. And it's dawned on me that we spend a lot of time together. Selwyn, yes. Me. Well, I just think that if God had someone for each of us, we probably wouldn't even notice because we're so caught up in each other's lives. Selwyn, so? Me. Maybe we should take a break. Give each other some space. Give ourselves the chance to see who God may have in mind for us. This was the epitome of my master plan. This was the point where he was supposed to fall to his knees and declare that he knew God had planned for us to have a future together as man and wife. As I prepared to graciously accept God's plan, cue the birds twittering overhead, the soft breeze rustling the leaves, and the violins softly playing, he said, yes, I think you're right. It's a good idea to give each other some space. Suddenly, someone drew a fingernail across the chalkboard of my dreams. The violins hit the most discordant note. The breeze violently sucked the breath from my body. I was left in a daze, but trying desperately to carry on with the script I had written. I had no choice but to pretend that this was exactly what I wanted. Okay, so that's a chapter where the joke was on me. And that is one of the funniest chapters, I think. Ms. Denora has read the book. I don't know if she thought there were others that were more funny, but that to me was the funniest chapter of the book. And the one I found I liked and enjoyed writing.
Yeah, that was a good chapter. That was a great question, Francisco. Okay, so Nicole, Daniela, girls, speak up. Who has a question? Nicole.
Is this your first book that you published? If not, what other books have you written?
This is the first book that I have published. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
That was brief, as Nicole usually is, very short. Daniela, do you have a question?
Yes. So, how many times did you fall in love?
Oh my goodness. Okay, really fall in love. Really fall in love. I'm gonna say once.
Hmm.
Like really like, lots of times. But love, if I explain what I mean, I have, and even now, because it was a shock to me to realize I've been married now 39 years in December. And it was a shock to me to realize after I got married that I could still like other people. And because we think to ourselves that once we find the person that we love, that's it. No, there are people with a lot of beautiful qualities, they are beautiful to look at, that we can become attracted to. But when we actually, quote unquote, fall in love, it is that we have decided that this is the person that we want to forever commit ourselves to. They have all the qualities that we believe that would make for a good life together. And so, and of course you have the feelings too, but more than the feelings, you know that this is somebody who you would want to be the father of your children, or if you're a man, the mother of your children, somebody who you can build a life together with. And when you have decided on that and you have committed, you have said, I will love you forever, then that's a decision. That's more than just the butterflies. The butterflies are cool, but it's more than just the butterflies in your tummy. This is now a decision that you make, that I will love you. Even when I'm upset with you, I will love you. And so I've only had one person in my life that I have loved enough to make that kind of commitment to. I have liked a lot of people, but I have only loved one person enough to make that kind of commitment to. And so for me, I've only really fallen in love one time.
That's a great answer. I like the way you set that up. And it's true. I mean, when you get married, you don't die. You still have eyes and you can still look at people and say, that looks good, and not actually want to pursue that relationship. Really nice way to put it. Okay, kids, who else has a question? Let's see. Let me call names. I'm going to name names. Alondra, go ahead.
How did you get inspired to write this beautiful book, or who inspired you?
Thank you for asking that question, because I wanted to mention that. You know, in my book, I actually have, and I think it's in the acknowledgements, and I am going to read a little part of it and see if you recognize this person. I'm going to read just a little part of the acknowledgement. It says, a book is born when you can no longer ignore the voices that call you to write. For some, the voice calls from deep within. For others, the voice they hear stares at them in familiar faces. This book is the response to many who through the years have urged me to write. Denora Blackman, you were the straw that broke the camel's back. Thanks for relentlessly urging me to write. Happy now? That's what I wrote in my book, because there are some people who over the years have said, why don't you write a book? And so when I was turning 60 and I wanted to do something special to market, in my book, I tell a story about when I was 57, I had a brain bleed and I lost this use of my right side. So I had recovered mostly from that. And so my 60th birthday was a very special one. And so I was thinking, of ways to celebrate it. And when I asked your Miss Denora, her thing was to me, why don't you finally write that book? And so that's how come I decided that I would finally write the book. So you have Miss Denora to thank for that.
You know, actually, most of these kids, I think all of them are also in my advanced writing class. So they don't know it yet, but when we go back to in person, I'm going to be pushing them to write a book and self-publish. Yeah, they don't know it.
Wonderful.
They don't find out. Next year.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Okay, kids, do we have any more questions? And that's okay if you don't have any questions. It's okay. This is our last class for the year. So
Oh,
thank you so much, Ms. Diane Batchelor, for being here with us to close off the school year. This has been really fun, and I hope that you inspired them to, when this project comes up next year, that they have to write a book, not to see like, oh my goodness, it's so horrible, I can't do that, but to actually see it as something that is beneficial to them. Because like you said, I like when you said how this is something that you can pass on to your kids and to your kids' kids. And that's exactly the point. I mean, so many people just end their lives or life ends and nobody knows their stories. So I always think it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to write down those stories and to share them. Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. And I'd be happy to let you guys know that Miss Denora, you probably know, has written many, many books. And I knew that she had written books before, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's such a lot of work. And in a sense, it is work. But you know what? I started writing the book in, I think it was March, and I finished it in July. And that is like incredible now that I understand the process. But if somebody like me who had never done it before can do that, I believe that with Miss Denora's guidance, you guys should be able to come up with a beautiful book, because having somebody who has done it before walk you through the steps actually makes it much easier. So I'm looking forward to hearing your stories in a few years.
So tell the kids where they can find your book in case one of them wants to jump into that and read it. It's a large book. It's not a thin paper, thin book. It's really, how many pages does it have?
Wow. I think it's a little over 300 pages.
Mm-hmm. So it's
How
a good sized book.
it is a good sized book. I understand that it doesn't take for somebody who's a quick reader, it doesn't take a day actually to read, because one of the things that I did is that my font, I don't know if you can see that, I made sure to write to use larger print, because as I've gotten older, I realized that when the print is so tiny, I can barely see it and I must put glasses on. And I thought, I'm going to be kind to people my age and older. And so I made the font a little larger than some books are. So it may look like a huge book, but really it's not that huge.
Okay. You know, that thing with the font, that's a great idea, because the smaller font makes people fall asleep and get really bored because your eyes are constantly trying to focus. So yeah, and that's also a little tip for you kids. When we do this next year, I'm only going to ask you to write a short story with 50 pages, but you can use larger fonts. That's a great tip. Okay, so this has been really great. Do you want to tell the kids how they can get your book, Ms. Diane?
Oh, yes. The book is available on Amazon. Most of you know Amazon.com. So if you go into Amazon and you put in, the book is called God in the Meantime. It's hard to show. Yeah, there it is. God in the Meantime. And as you can see, mean is in red because I'm making a play on, I didn't tell that part of the story, but many times when I thought God was being mean, he was really being absolutely wonderful to me. And so the book is called God in the Meantime. And if you put that in on Amazon, www.amazon.com, you will find my book comes up. And you can get it in digital form. If, like my daughter, you like to read your books from your phone, you can do that. And if, like me, you like to get your book in your hand, then you can also order that and it can be delivered to you. So there is the paperback as well as the e-version on Amazon.
Thank you so much, Ms. Batchelor. Thank you for being here. Thank you, kids, for being so wonderful. I will not be seeing you until hopefully March 2022. Hopefully. It all depends on this Carnavales foolishness. People do not encourage that foolishness. Stay home because we don't want a third year locked up in.
No more COVID. No more COVID.
These kids are tired of just sitting in front of screens. They need to be out there. Okay, so this has been fun. See you next time, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.